So, so if you think of this notion of disruption and changing mindsets and shifting, this whole way forward, there is this thing about what I think I've chatted with you about this offline. It's all about exactly what you said. Can we do this continuously? First of all, do we have the right mindset to want to do it? Let's say that you want to do it. Can you do it continuously? Can you then be able to, tie it to some action plan or action steps? And then can you see if those action plans and action steps, if you're achieving those, are actually driving measurable outcomes for your business, right? And whatever that metric is. So what I'm going to do is I'll pull up something real quick, and folks have seen this, before. So let me just see if I can get this thing going. So this is our. Can you see my screen, Deepak? You can.
Yes, I can.
Guessing. Okay. So what I have here is basically the landing page for our website, and it's not so important about the landing page, but basically this is our gateway, right? When you think about our people who work with Rejuvi, organizations that we work with basically use this as a gateway to get to their ecosystem to do exactly that, to collect the data, collect it continuously, be able to tie to an action plan, and then tie to business outcomes. But what we're going to do today is I'll just show you, just a couple of things. So when you log in, here's a system. This is actually the Rejuvi system, and I wanted to share a couple of things with you, Deepak, just in the notion of of what we just discussed. So in our platform, when we come in here, we're able to do, organizations and leaders are able to do a bunch of things. But what I'm going to go in today is two things. One is you mentioned something about role. What made you successful in one role is not going to make you successful in the next role or a different role. So this notion around having a role or a segmented approach to leadership development is also a very important one. And we have the ability of doing that. So when you think about, and we don't need to get into the technical details, but there's the ability to look at different segments of leaders, executive leaders, leaders out in the regions building books of business, service team leaders, and new leaders, right? First time, leaders, if you may. So this notion of being able to dive into each of those segments and develop those leaders differently is really something that is long overdue in the industry, right? Because, like, to your point, what made us successful till now is not necessarily what makes us successful going into the future, right? So that's the idea. And then we have this area called resources to go. Now, these are things that are available to all the organizations that work with us, but I wanted to show you one thing to start with. So for us, we could go in and we could collect data on behalf of a leader, and I'll just show you a sample report here, if you can, so I'll just pull this up real quick, and let me know if you can't see this, but you should see a set of PDF pages here. Can you see a report here?
I can. Yes.
Okay, so I'll just go to this, which is one of our favorites. This is but one report, and we leverage this quite a bit when we go and coach leadership cohorts, right? And so over here, this we refer to it as a team drivers report. But Deepak, what this is really, if you look at the black dots, you'll see that there are 4 quadrants. And then there are numbers inside those black circles, and those numbers basically denote the number of black seats occupied at the table. So this is the virtual table, right? This is the leadership table. And what we can do via our system is we can very quickly say, of all the leaders that we've looked at, what are their quadrants of strength? So in this kind of a scenario, you'll count that there are 5 seats at the leadership table, right? If you add up all the numbers inside the quadrants, and it'll tell you that 2 of those leaders at those seats, their quadrant of strength, things that are superpowers for them, are in the space of intent. So their ability to drive and understand vision, mission, and values, evaluating the competitive landscape, that's their super strength, right? There are 2 other leaders whose quadrants of strength are implementing short-term priorities, goal setting, coaching, that stuff. And then one of the leaders at the table has their super strength as what we refer to as the intelligence quadrant. So it's all about purpose, environment, framing the environment, understanding the people capability inside the organization, understanding the process capability. Now, think about this, Deepak. The ability to do this across the leadership table, to understand each other's strengths and opportunities, means that the leader who's sitting in the intelligence quadrant as a strength can now become a source of coaching, mentoring, sharing to the leaders whose strength is in the other quadrants, and vice versa, right? Does that make sense? So we can run this instantaneously. We can collect this information rapidly, less than 10 minutes per reviewer per participant, but that's not where we'll focus our time on today. But quickly, you could do this continuously. So imagine if you had this at Coke, Deepak, and you were one of those leaders sitting at the table. Not only would you be doing this continuously for yourself, your cohort or whoever is in your peer group would be doing this as well. Does
See
that make
the
sense?
oh, it's but this is fantastic, right? Like, see, I think the couple of things which I really love. What first of all, you are talking about a quadrant where
Yep.
we can have access at a team level, which
Yep.
can be customized to specific individuals, and this is really powerful, right?
Exactly.
Now,
Yep.
the key thing, the three key things that I really love about this, you are not only talking about a long-term priority, right? You're talking about short-term priority and goals, the mid-term priority and goals, which is a very important aspect. So, end of the day, if you are not
Right.
driving outcomes at a short-term, mid-term, and a long-term basis, it's going to be a quite a theoretical exercise which we won't be able to capture. So
Exactly.
that is really powerful. The second thing which I really loved about it is the coaching aspect of it, right? Like, I mean, so that is
Right.
quite unique when it comes to a team dynamic for somebody to be successful. And the last
Right.
aspect, I mean, I'm not, which I have not seen in many other places, is the aspect of gratitude. That is another,
Correct.
having this quadrant kind of outlook, and if we can do it on an ongoing basis, that is going to be really powerful.
Yep.
I wish, I mean, if
Yep.
this is a scalable model, I'm sure that many team leaders would love to leverage this
Yep.
for their team and on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and the good news is it is scalable, Deepak. We've done this. We've done this in multiple organizations. We're actually working with insurance companies. We are working with medical device companies, and it is scalable, and we are working on it. And the beauty is that once we collect this data, guess what? We've actually done this live, and let me show you another, kind of resource here. So we basically are now able to go in and then say, okay, now that we collect this data, so what? Now what? So what? Right? So we have this information. Well, guess what we've done? We've done this thing where we call this the team drivers ideator. But the notion here is very simply this. It will take, I think, a couple of seconds to load because this has been designed as a poster so that organizations can literally take it, print it, and bring it to a facilitation session. So if they have an L&D group inside, they have literally taken these documents and live just printed them, brought them into ideation sessions. So we've actually done this. We've done this with a multinational CPG company, right? And we've done this with one of their international teams, where we actually brought that kind of now imagine the team drivers report for like 11 leaders, and then we brought them all into a room, and we basically said, okay, let's have an ideation session, about what are your quadrants of strength, what are your opportunity areas you're looking for, and let's understand where everybody sits, and let's understand how we're all going to be supporting each other, and not in a vacuum, in a way that is tied to an action plan, that then is tied to a kind of a measurement program to key performance indicators on the business, whether it's top line or bottom line metrics, things like rate of attrition, things like share growth, things like what is my level of operational efficiency. So this is literally any metric that you can think of, top line and bottom line. We were able to go in and facilitate that. So the idea here is that you can quickly go from collecting the information, developing the action plans for each individual leader, but bring the team together and drive the team as a whole. Because we believe, I'm sure you do as well, is that if you don't do that, you can never create a tide lifts all boats kind of a momentum inside organizations. When we think of leadership development, the whole cohort approach to it, the whole notion of it's a collective, not an individual, it's not an individual sport, it's a team sport, right? This notion that somehow we deploy it individually today and kind of that's where it stops needs to go beyond that to understanding how then can you drive that impact continuously, but also drive it for teams. Anyways, I'm going to pause here for a
Yeah.
second. Yeah, go
See, I
ahead.
think I really love the idea of how we should move about the feedback at the team level to the individual level. Individual level happens, it is useful,
Correct.
but the exponential value of getting the feedback is going to improve with a system like this. And I would love to continue this conversation with you.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing
absolutely.
this with me. And I think one of the next definite call, I'm going to share this with my piano team and see how we can leverage some of these frameworks. This is fantastic because I think this is where if it's even if it's a really small team or a big team, the
Yeah,
exponential value of getting feedback is going to come through
that's right.
really.
Yeah, that's right. And something that that I'm going to stop sharing to bring us all back in. Something that you and I've talked extensively, right? And we both have been at the heads of really teams that fundamentally the mission, if there was one mission that I had to pick for my teams and my 27 years of experience, is that what is it? It's all about driving and sustaining change, right? It's about understanding how to drive that. And when you think of change, think about it, right? Within the world that we live in, and you said generative AI, correct? And you said AI. I think that if we think we are intimidated by change till today, we have no idea what change looks like tomorrow, because with the whole generative AI and AI space, I think change is just not on steroids. I think we have to come up with some kind of other drug to really, I think, understand the impact of what's coming our way.